Hello, hello, my friends. I don't know, unless you've been living under a rock, you're probably aware that Kringle Candle has a pretty big launch happening next week. Many would argue it is probably their biggest launch of the year. Yes, we are talking about Halloween is coming to Kringle next week, and they are going to start out with part one. Those of you guys who have been shopping with the brand in recent years know that they have kind of expanded their Halloween offerings from just going with their standard black jars that they started out with and became famous for, to now they tend to have more than one collection to celebrate the holidays. So part one is going to be available next week, August 7th, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So pay attention, because if you're over on the West Coast like me, that means that it's going to be 9 p.m. on August 6th. A lot of people like the, staying up and trying to get their hands on the candles. So in this video, you guys, we are going to just specifically be going over the part one offerings. There are 19 candles. They are going to all be available in those black jars. They are also only going to be available in their new 3-wick 22-ounce format, as well as their new 4-wick format. The 4-wick format is also very new to Halloween this year, because in years past, they've only been in those large 2-wick tumblers. We now know that Kringle has discontinued production of the 2-wick large tumblers, instead going with their new 3-wick format. It's still, you guys, the same amount of wax that you're getting, and it's going to be at the same price point. So very, very excited about this launch. I know a lot of people are. And so we are going to be talking about, what is on my wish list? What are some of the returning fragrances that I am familiar with? Are any of them on my list to repurchase? And we're also going to talk about why I don't have the candles right here in front of me to sniff with all of you guys. It's probably not for the reason that most of you guys think it is. So yeah, if you like this video, please make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to my channel if you are new. But let's go ahead and get this video rolling here. So I actually was initially offered PR for this launch from Kringle. Kringle is very gracious in that they have sent me PR, quite a few times over the last couple of years, and I was initially slated to receive this part one PR. However, I had some very last minute travel plans come up last week, which was when they were getting ready to send this PR out. And here's the thing, you guys. The day that I'm uploading this, I'm planning to upload this on Wednesday. What would that be? July 29th. I am actually planning to surprise my husband, Cody. You guys have seen him here on my channel. His work sends him for some continued education. They've been sending him for almost the last 6 years, I think, for some continued education courses. And he is actually going to be graduating from that program. Now, they've sent him out of state for this special program for, like I said, all of these years now. And because he's going to be graduating, I am going to surprise him by actually flying in for that, for that celebration. So he doesn't know. Again, the day that I'm planning to upload this is the day that I'm flying out. And he doesn't really watch my channel anyways. So hopefully the surprise won't be ruined. However, I didn't decide to do that until last Thursday. That's when I bought my plane tickets. And I quickly notified our PR manager, and I said, hey, I knew that PR was being sent out late last week. And so I was like, I hope I've caught you in time. Some things have come up where I am going to be out of town next week. I don't think that I'm going to be able to get a video filmed of cold sniffs and even really be able to dedicate some time to burning the candles to get some adequate thoughts out prior to the launch. I think it would just be better if you sent them to another ambassador. So I caught him in time. So my candles did end up going to another ambassador. We're going to talk about at the end of this. Well, I should just say here right now, the ambassador that my candles, I think, ended up going to was Amy from Beloved Fragrance Finds. You guys know she actually only lives an hour away from me. And conveniently, her home is actually located on the way home from the airport. So I have a feeling when I fly back in, this weekend, I might be stopping by her house to get my nose on some of these new fragrances to see if any of them are ones that I want to purchase. But until then, it's kind of fun to look at the fragrance notes and just see what catches my eye. So that is the reason why I don't have these candles in hand. I do know that there are a total of 10 ambassadors that did receive PR for this launch. So I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know who they are right here in case you are wanting to get all of the thoughts, all of the you know, all of the opinions, varied opinions. I know that some of the ambassadors who are receiving this PR are really, really like big, like Halloween enthusiasts. They really love and get into the spirit of it. So for those of you guys who enjoy the Halloween holiday, probably going to want to go and check out their thoughts. So the 10 ambassadors that are receiving this PR, I did mention Amy from Beloved Fragrance Finds, Melanie from Mr. Kong's Mom, Brett from Philly Candleman, Bonnie from Queen of the Girl Geeks, Drew Yock, Charity Rose, Tracy from Three Wick Thesis, who's the other one? Julia from Haunted Haven, Rachel from Simply Scented, and Jared from Wicked Doll Boy. So those are the 10 ambassadors who I was told are receiving that PR. And so feel free to go ahead and check out their various platforms. I know quite a few of them. They're on Instagram and YouTube. Feel free to go check them out for some thoughts on what these might be smelling like on cold. Let's see. The other thing that I wanted to touch on really quickly is, yeah, part one, you guys, is a little bit more on the spookier side. You know, there's some, I'm going to tell you guys, the labels on these ones actually don't bother me as much. There's a couple that I would be like, I don't know, I would probably pull the label off. You guys know me. Halloween is not really a big deal for me in my home. I like cutesy Halloween, like this cute little black cat that I got back here. I actually got that pillow for $10 the other day at Costco. Same with the pumpkin one. So Costco's already rolling out some of their cute Halloween and fall decor. But for me, you guys, Halloween, if I do anything, it's usually more of the like cutesy style. For me, I definitely am just more of like a fall lover because I actually don't really get to experience fall where I live. But anyways, you guys, this part one launch is not really typically in my wheelhouse in terms of the packaging. However, there are some fragrances that I have loved in years past, which is why I don't completely just brush it off and cast it off. Again, if a label bothers me, I can always peel the label off. And truthfully, that's not even just something that is relevant to the Halloween holiday for me. Sometimes I find fragrances that are released, say for a Christmas launch, and to my nose, I'm kind of like, oh, that's more of like a spring candle, or you know, something will come out in the spring, and I'm like, I think that's more of a fall launch. Kringle now, their labels are actually really, really easy to peel off, so that's always something to keep in mind. I myself just purchase primarily for fragrance. So I feel like I've talked enough already. Reminder, you guys, all of the candles that I'm talking about, I will have listed in the description box down below. I will list them with fragrance notes. I will put timestamps down there for you as well. I would be really curious to hear what is on your wish list. And like I said, at the end of this video, I'm going to let you guys know what is tentatively on my wish list. I do know of the returning fragrances. There are some. Oh, and I also wanted to let you guys know, I will also list at the end of this video, I have a Halloween playlist of reviews that I have already done for some of these returning fragrances, as well as oh, what's the thing? Like I have like first sniff impressions. Anything that I've done that's ever been Kringle Halloween related, you will find in that playlist, and I will have that linked at the very end of this video. All right, that's enough chattering. We're almost 9 minutes in. Let's get to it. Let's get a sip of water because we've got a lot to talk about here. So Kringle actually has this really nice feature on their website right now that if you go to the very top, it says a first look, the Black Jar Collection 2026. You can click on it, and there's little like scent stories that go along with all of these. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get my computer here to scroll. Hey, what are we doing here? Now you don't want to scroll down. This is my kid's computer, you guys. I am so like not the tech gal. It's kind of ridiculous. All right, so I'm going to be going not in any particular order here. We're going to go ahead and start out with Vampire's Kiss. So Vampire's Kiss has fragrance notes listed as top notes of blackberry and citrus, mid notes of wine and fruit, and base notes of oakwood and spice. So this one to me, you guys, is slightly intriguing. In years past, I have actually kind of liked the way that Kringle does some of those like wine fragrances. There was a reserve fragrance called like Merlot a couple of years ago that really surprised me. This one I think is probably going to be a little bit of like a deeper fragrance. I know sometimes we might see the top notes of blackberry and citrus and think like, oh, you know, is it going to be like autumnal fruit? But there's something about this, again, one of the things that Kringle does, particularly with this black jar lineup, is that they're looking for something that's going to give a little bit more of like a dark and moody vibe to it. So I think the base notes of oakwood and spice have me intrigued. This one definitely I am intrigued by. Like I said, I'm hoping to stop by Amy's to be able to get my nose on these candles. And if I do, you guys, I will try to maybe give a little bit of an update in like shorts or over on my Instagram as to what would be on my list afterwards. But I am intrigued by this one. I will say that the fragrance notes are, this one's kind of like middle of the road for me though. I am going to say that Blackberry is a fragrance note that I typically burn more so like this time of year. It's kind of a summer to fall transitional scent for me. So it's kind of like middle of the road, I would say, in terms of the intrigue. The label here is definitely, it's a picture of a woman, you know, holding her neck, and you can see that she's been bitten by a vampire. I mean, it's not overly creepy. Still probably not really my vibe, but I think that it's tasteful, I think, and of course the picture is definitely in line with what they're saying it is. Okay, the next one that the people who really like the creepy is Krampus. So Krampus, there's whole like stories that go with this, you guys. It is kind of looped in as being a sweet and indulgent fragrance. The top notes are smoke, rosemary, and orange. Middle notes of eucalyptus, leather, and then vegetable. And base notes of guaiacwood, cedarwood, and patchouli. Now, I am going to say, you guys, um, the label on this one is not for me. I like the Christmas elements. I like the Christmas scenes. But this is probably one, if I were to purchase it, I would probably pull the label off. However, I am going to say that I am very intrigued by the fragrance notes on this. I wonder how smoky and leathery it's going to be. But you guys know that recently I did a review on these, what's the new eucalyptus one that they just released? Not sugared eucalyptus. That doesn't make sense. Okay, the new eucalyptus one. You guys are so many things going through my brain sometimes that I'm like, I can't remember. The new eucalyptus fragrance I really like from the Reserve line. And I'm intrigued by this one. Is it going to be fresh? Is it going to be sweet? Cedarwood and patchouli, though, is the only thing that's giving me a little bit of pause on this one because I don't always love when Kringle mixes the cedarwood and patchouli. So I'm wondering if this one, though, excuse me, is going to have like a kind of a Christmassy vibe. When we talk about the returning fragrances, there is one scent. Those of you who are familiar with fragrances Kringle has released in the past probably know which one I'm talking about. They give off slightly a almost like holiday transitional type of vibe. So I'm curious about this one, but again, we'll have to see there. Okay, what else do we have here? Coming in on the new fragrances. Sorry, the website here, I'm having a little bit. Okay, Dark Orchard. Dark Orchard has fragrance notes. Our top notes listed as apple, caramel, lactonic, and sweet. Mid notes of amber, tonka bean, and vanilla. Base note of musky. I am going to say, you guys, this one I am very intrigued by. Slightly nervous about the caramel and the lactonic because you guys all know that Kringle, for as much as I love the brand, the way that they do caramel and lactonic notes does not always agree with my nose. However, I'm hoping that the apple might balance it out and some sweetness. For me, I'm feeling like, is this them trying to make another take on like a caramel apple scent? Last year they had that, oh, what was it? Was it called caramel dipped apple or something like that? There was a like a caramel apple scent, but there was more of like a walnut to it. I think a lot of people were expecting it to be a little bit more like, say, how Bath and Body Works does. And it was definitely a fresher take on it. So I am definitely intrigued by this one. I am curious. I am going to say that Dark Orchard is on my list. It's one of the ones that, looking at the fragrance notes, has intrigued me the most. But again, I'm slightly cautious about it because of the caramel and lactonic notes. And that one just has like an apple hanging, you know, it looks like kind of like a spooky forest with some clouds behind it. Nothing too spooky. Okay, Sisters 3. Now this looks like some, I don't know, witchcraft going on around the base of like a cauldron or something here. yeah, probably not really my type of packaging, but we have top notes listed as raspberry, grape, and orange, mid notes of cinnamon, jasmine, and rose, base notes of cedar, musk, and sandalwood. This one, you guys, I don't really have much interest in. I think it's because of the really fruity top notes. Those to me don't really scream like fall vibes for me. You guys know I tend to be a very seasonal burner, and for me, I just don't feel like this is a fragrance that I would be like wanting, like even like jasmine and rose, those are more florals. So for those of you guys who aren't seasonal in your burning, maybe you always appreciate a fruity floral, this one might intrigue you. But for me, this one, I think it's the combination of just the fragrance notes and the label on this one. Neither are really appealing to me. Okay, we have the Raven. Now, I know that a lot of people were wondering if this is going to be similar to, there was a fragrance I think called Nevermore that also had a raven on it. Kind of a play on, was Nevermore an Edgar Allan Poe? I'm trying to remember back to my high school days. Yeah, I think that was an Edgar Allan Poe poem. Okay, fragrance notes on the Raven are bergamot, wood, vetiver, herbal, and base notes of moss and oud. So the wood, vetiver, and herbal are the mid notes. The base notes are moss and oud. I actually am intrigued by this one. First and foremost, the label, it's okay. It doesn't really bother me all that much. Bergamot, wood, vetiver, herbal. I will tell you guys, I think of the brands that I frequently shop from, Kringle does fresh, outdoorsy types of fragrances very, very well, and I have a feeling that this one is going to fall in line. I do like the way that they have done vetiver and woody notes. Again, I think that Kringle does it very well. So that herbal moss, I know that Kringle a couple of years ago was really on like a moss kick. Do you guys remember, like in their fall reserve, as well as they did the Spanish moss? I think that was in like a spring lineup. I know that a lot of people really love that one. I like it too. They do a very good job at doing authentic green type of fragrances. So this one I am very curious about. This one is on my list, the Raven. It's going to be one of the ones that I'm really curious to get my nose on. And oud, oud is kind of a mysterious. There's a kind of a like a dark earthiness, but also kind of like a almost like after the rain type of like moisture in the air type of vibe to it. That's what my nose always thinks of when I smell oud. So yeah, I'm intrigued by the Raven. Okay, let's see what else we have here. Freak Show. So it's really nice, you guys. What Kringle has done here is that when you click on that, there's ones that are, so like it says the dark side. They're complex, moody, sophisticated, witchy. They lean more into darkness and mysticism. So I would highly recommend going onto the Kringle website, you guys, if you're looking for specific fragrances that fall into that. Okay, now we've got the ones that are listed as sweet and indulgent. And just letting you guys know, I'm covering the first 9 fragrances that are new first, and then I'm going to go back and talk about the 10 returning scents. So next up on the new fragrances is a candle called Freak Show. Freak Show. Okay, top notes of honey and banana, middle notes of butterscotch, fondant, red apple, base notes of caramel, coconut, and vanilla cream. Curious about this one, but once again, I'm seeing honey, butterscotch, and caramel, which again, I don't know what to expect with Kringle on that. I don't know. Again, but then there's red apple and fondant, which means that there's fondant might be a little bit more of like a sweet element coming in there. I'm curious. I'm curious. I'm curious about a freak show, right? I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of a freak show? That's kind of what draws you in, curiosity, right? I'm definitely intrigued by this one. But again, honey, banana. I'm wondering how prominent the banana is going to be on that. I have a feeling that it's not going to be, when Kringle has done banana scents, they're not overly like in your face banana. I have typically liked the way that Kringle has done banana. So I have a feeling that it's not going to be overly ripe, artificial, like Laffy Taffy banana, not like a summer banana. I'm curious if the banana note they're going to use here is the same one that they use like in their Bananas Foster, which tends to be a little bit more of like a deeper, overly ripe banana. So we will see. Hansel's Trail. Okay, so like Hansel and Gretel. Top notes of candied blueberries, mid notes of sugared cookies, and base note of vanilla marshmallow. Okay, here's the thing with this one, you guys. I'm intrigued, but if you've been watching some of my recent videos, particularly I think it was the one where I was talking about maybe my most recent declutter, here's the thing that I'm starting to realize about myself. I don't always love cookie notes. When it comes to gourmands, I don't think I'm as gourmand as I have always thought I like, or I'm not as much of a gourmand lover as I've always thought that I am. I think I've concluded I like gourmand when it's cake. And even then, I like it more to be like a fluffy cake. I don't always love cookie notes. Gourmand notes, if they are too dense to my nose, can come across a little bit scorched, particularly with Kringle. I know last year, Kringle in their Christmas release, they had their crinkle, like what was it, the Kringle cookies, and a lot of people loved that, which I totally get it. But it wasn't for me. For me, it came across like my cookies were burning in the oven a little bit. My nose doesn't like overly dense, buttery type of notes. So that has me a little bit, I don't know. The other thing that I will say, I have actually already talked to one of the ambassadors who have received these candles, and this person was saying that they noticed that the pour dates on some of these were July 15th. And I actually know that the ambassadors, 6 of the 9 new candles were sent out last Friday, but the other 3 were not sent out until Monday or Tuesday, which means that their production schedule is very, very close. And one of the things that I do want to let you guys know, if you are watching these ambassadors reviews, I know a lot of them do a really good job, so they might point this out to you guys. But if you start watching their initial post burns, soy wax needs 2 weeks to cure. So if some of these candles were just recently poured, like on the 15th of this month, they probably shouldn't even have a flame taken to them at least until probably the 30th, 31st. So be aware, you guys, when you start watching, maybe if any of these ambassadors start giving like initial post-burn thoughts, that don't be surprised if you start to see like, oh, it might be a little bit light, or the fragrance may not be fully developed. That is one of my concerns that I've seen, that I'm like, ooh, that's pretty close to the production schedule. So we shall see. But I just thought of that, seeing the sugar cookie and the marshmallow base. Typically marshmallow, anything that has like a strong vanilla base, needs a little bit more curing time than the average bear to start performing well. So again, though, here's the other thing that I do always have to keep in mind. Not everybody is buying these candles and ready to burn them right away. Like those of us who film YouTube videos are, we know that we have to get reviews, or I know, I shouldn't put this on everybody. I, for myself, know that I typically need to start burning and getting post-burn thoughts out quickly prior to all of the seasons. But I think for the average consumer, if you're purchasing these in the beginning of August and you're not planning to light them up until October or later, you're going to be perfectly fine. But wanted to put that out there in case you notice that a lot of the ambassadors might be initially saying, hey, this might be a little bit light. Keep in mind that these are going to be fresh pours. Okay, another sweet, what did they say this would be? Sweet and indulgent fragrance. No, stop that, computer. I don't want that. Okay, another sweet and indulgent fragrance is going to be Death by Chocolate. Crushed walnuts are the top notes, middle notes of dark chocolate, base notes of vanilla sugar. This is an absolute no for me. First and foremost, I don't like dark chocolate fragrances. I have concluded I don't like dark chocolate or bittersweet chocolate from any brand, even Kringle. And I will tell you, I am a huge fan of their red velvet. I love that chocolate scent. I did like their crinkle cookies. That was part of a Christmas collection quite a few years ago. But like dark chocolate, and then you add in the component of walnuts, absolutely not. Walnuts, to my nose does not like walnuts. It comes across like putrid to my nose. I don't know. I'm trying to keep it like PG here. My nose does not like the way that walnut smells. So that is going to be an easy pass for me. The label is actually really cute, you guys. It's actually just like a jack-o'-lantern with some chocolate being poured over. It looks like some walnuts there. So label is not too spooky there. Okay, and then of the new fragrances that are going to be launched that are part of what they say is classic Halloween, we have Haunted Harvest. It has top notes of lemon, orange, and ginger, mid notes of pumpkin, clove, and cinnamon, and base notes of vanilla and sugar. Yes, I am intrigued. Pumpkin, clove, cinnamon, you give me that combo, I'm always going to be intrigued. I do like the way that Kringle does ginger. If there's any brand that can suck me in with a ginger note, or I can say, or not scare me off, I should say, with a ginger note, it is Kringle. I typically have like the way that they do ginger. Whereas say like, you guys know I love caramel sundaes, but I don't always like the way that they do ginger in their blends. So the ginger doesn't scare me off here. We've got lemon and orange. Last year there was a fragrance that is returning that we're going to talk about that has the combination of orange and pumpkin, that I'm going to talk about what it did with my nose. But I am intrigued enough by Haunted Harvest. And again, this label doesn't really, I don't think it's too overly spooky, not anything that would really, I would find offensive in my home. So Haunted Harvest is definitely on my list. And I think that's it in terms of the 9 new fragrances. So I would say of the new ones, the ones that I am most intrigued by in order would probably be, I would say Dark Orchard. If you want to give me like if you want me to know the top 3 that I'm most interested in are going to be Haunted Harvest, Dark Orchard, and it's probably going to be a tie between like Krampus and the Raven. I think those are the 2 that I'm probably most intrigued by of the new fragrance. Although I don't know, Freak Show also has me kind of intrigued. So those are the ones that I am intrigued by. Now let's quickly go over the returning fragrances, and I'm going to let you guys know again. I'll have that playlist at the end, but I will let you guys know what I have on my playlist. And there's actually a couple of these that I have not formally reviewed, but I have had in my collection before, and I can give you guys some thoughts about them. So here we go. Black Cat is returning. Now here's the thing. I have never had Black Cat in my collection. The fragrance notes are top notes of spicy cinnamon, middle notes of clove, base notes of cedar and frankincense. Now clearly, I am a cat lover. I love cats. I will say, you guys, that this one is on my wish list. I do plan to purchase this one, possibly even in a 4-wick format, because I have some familiarity with this fragrance. So I've never purchased it before. However, last August, I actually did go to the Kringle store in Massachusetts, and I did get a little bit of a tour of the factory and the warehouse. And they didn't have Black Cat on the floor of the store. However, when I was in the warehouse, I was able to come across one, and I asked the PR manager, I said, the employee I was with, I was like, can I smell that really quickly? I'm just so curious. And he said, sure, go ahead. Stuck my nose in it. You guys, it's a beautiful incense fragrance. If you are of the Catholic faith and you have attended Mass, or if you're like me and you are not of the Catholic faith, but maybe you went to a Catholic high school, so you've attended Mass several times, that is what Black Cat reminds me of. It's a very nice, like, church incense type of fragrance. The cinnamon note was not overly aggressive to my nose. It was a scent that, again, by the time I had smelled it last year, I think I was starting to feel a little bit overwhelmed with how much I had to review, and so that's why I passed it up. But this year it is on my list to purchase right at launch, because I do like the fragrance quite a bit from what I got on cold. Cabin in the Woods is another returning fragrance. I will say that I do have a dedicated post-burn review on this one. I did receive that candle in PR last year. Cabin in the Woods has fragrance notes listed as top notes of golden saffron, middle notes of rose, black truffle, crocus flower, base note of patchouli, vanilla, agarwood, and oak moss. Now, to my nose, you guys, if I'm recalling correctly, that one was definitely a rose fragrance. I actually felt like that was a fragrance talking about, I don't think the label is creepy or anything at all, but talking about a fragrance that I felt like was appropriate for a different season. I felt like this was a fragrance that was really good around like February, thinking of Valentine's Day, because it was more of like a dark rose scent. There was a reserve candle, I want to say it was 2 years ago, called like Sunflowers and Suede, that also kind of had like a dark earthy rose type of note to it. If you liked that one, Cabin in the Woods is a cousin to it. I would say that they're kind of in that same family. It is a rose fragrance. It's very pretty, you guys, I will say, but it's not like your typical spring floral rose. There is a darkness to it. There is an earthiness. I definitely get like a patchouli vibe mixed with the rose in there, but it's very pretty, almost like a leathery rose type of scent. So if you tend to like fragrances like that, again, maybe you're not a seasonal burner, maybe you like florals, even going throughout the fall and winter seasons, then I think Cabin in the Woods would be good. I keep in mind also the other thing, you guys, when you watch my dedicated reviews from last year, those are in the old 2-wick format. The 3-wick formats, I personally have found that the new 3-wick formats are about like a +1, +1.5 in terms of strength and throw, what I am experiencing. I do find that they perform a little bit better for me than the 2-wicks. It's still very much dependent upon the overall fragrance profile, how strong it's going to be. But I am finding that the throw is a lot better in these new 3-wick formats than they were in the 2-wicks. Okay, returning fragrances. Trick or Treat. Here's another one. I know my girl Terry, you're watching this. My girl Terry over at Terry, I can never. Poor Decisions and Wicked Truths. I mean, if that's not the name of a channel for you for candle content, boy, there it is. But my girl Terry, she loves Trick or Treat from the Kringle Halloween collection. Me? No, I don't. You know why? Let's go over the fragrance notes. Walnut liqueur, cocoa powder, mid notes of dark chocolate truffle, mocha latte, creamy fudge, base note of vanilla cream, raw sugar crystal, dark caramel. This is another one that I do believe that I have a dedicated review on it. And spoiler alert, I did not like the fragrance. And I think actually a lot of my family members even said they didn't like it either. Like they walked in and they were like, it smells weird in here. So, you know, it could just be like my home environment too, you guys. Here's the thing that I always want to keep in mind when I'm giving an opinion. First and foremost, it's my opinion. It's my nose, right? It's what my preferences are. I think that, you know, it's always good for you guys to understand when I'm giving my thoughts or any reviewer's thoughts, to be familiar with what their preferences are in terms of what fragrance notes they like. And also, here's another tip. Sometimes, I'm going to tell you guys this, like I laugh with my friend Amy over at Beloved Fragrance Finds. Typically, if she loves a fragrance, my nose is not going to like it, and vice versa, because I know that she tends to love like deep, buttery, rich fragrances. I know she doesn't like chocolate. She and I are kind of aligned on that one, but I think it's really good sometimes for you to be aware of, you know, if a reviewer describes certain notes that you're like, oh, they don't like that, but you know, we've always kind of had some opposites. That's actually always really helpful too. So be aware of that. So just know, you guys, when I'm just giving the opinion, I'm being honest, but it's still probably going to be helpful to all of you guys, depending on how well our noses align with each other or don't align. All right, another fragrance that is returning is Candy Corn. This one has fragrance notes of rich caramel, golden honey, mid notes of sweet praline, nutmeg, and cinnamon, and base notes of creamy vanilla and toasted almond. Here's the thing I'm going to tell you guys. I actually did smell this when I was in store last year. And I know that there's been some talk over the years that this is very much a sister fragrance to, I want to say is it sprinkled macarons, that a lot of people say that this is very similar to. Sprinkled macarons is part of their reserve fragrance. To me, you guys, it smelled like a slightly amped up version of a fragrance that they had. It's been discontinued for a few years now. That was called, I think it was called Marshmallow Morning. I felt like sprinkled macarons was the same. Like honestly, was just like a sister fragrance, just amped up a little bit more in terms of maybe a little bit stronger oils, but still very much the same fragrance profile. And I'm going to tell you guys that I remembered when I smelled Candy Corn in store last year, I felt like it was very, very similar. So if you like sprinkled macarons, I think that you're going to like Candy Corn. I'm sure upon burn, there might be some differences. You know, this is one that I might give it another try because, you know, I had sprinkled macarons a couple of years ago and it was a like for me. But I feel like I might have more things in my collection right now that it might go along nicely with. So Candy Corn might be on my list to pick up just because it seems to be a returning fragrance year after year that, you know, people love. If anything, I should probably get it so that way I can review it for all of you guys and that can be part of my review catalog. Okay, another one, Mummy Marshmallow. Mummy Marshmallow I did have last year in the 2-wick format. They did send that to me in PR last year. Top notes of cinnamon, clove bud, marshmallow. Mid notes of earthy mosses, birch, and cedarwood. Base note of musk, oak, patchouli, and vanilla bean. Now I'm going to tell you guys, I know a lot of people love this one. I do remember this fragrance was very light for me and it was very woody for me on burn. It actually kind of reminded me a little bit of, you know, those of us who those of us who went to school in the days when you actually got up out of your chair to go and like sharpen your wooden pencils at the, pencil sharpener. Something about this fragrance when it was burning actually kind of reminded me of that freshly cut, I think the pencils are made out of cedar. Kind of that freshly cut. It reminded me of pencil shavings. I don't know, but like maybe like sweet pencil shavings. It was a like, but not a love for me. I feel like I either finished burning it and was like, okay, it's one and done. And it still is one and done for me. I am going to say that for me last year, of the Marshmallow fragrances that Kringle released, I liked their Boo Crew Ghost Stories a little bit more. I felt like that one had more of the vibe of Maison Margiela has a perfume called, I think it's called By the Fireplace or By the Fireside. I think it's called By the Fireplace. I felt like Ghost Stories kind of hit that vibe a little bit more, of there being a little bit of like a smoky marshmallow element. This one I think was a little bit too much wood for my nose personally. It wasn't a hate, but it wasn't a love for me either. It's not one that I see myself wanting to repurchase. Okay, Graveyard Night is another one that is returning. This has fragrance notes, top notes of caramel, bayberry, anise star, mid notes of pumpkin, clove, cinnamon, base notes of sweet milk, musk, and powdery. And one of the things that has been pointed out in the Kringle Facebook group is that these are actually the same notes that are listed on the new autumn harvest that returned in the fall collection. So I'm going to tell you guys, if you caught I think it was my Friday 5 last week, I talked about I just got autumn harvest in. And I'm going to tell you, on cold, that one smells kind of weird. If you caught my friend Drew's video, he's like, absolutely not. I don't like this on cold. He's going to burn it. I am going to tell you, that fragrance, don't let this one on cold scare you off. If you got autumn harvest, and you are somebody who is burning strictly for fragrance, you don't really care about if it's Halloween packaging, you're going to repeat the fragrance by purchasing Graveyard Night. That is what I have heard. I have not purchased Graveyard Night, but I'm just looking and seeing that they are the exact same fragrance notes. And I know that there are some other people, some other ambassadors. I think it was Carrie was talking about it in the Facebook group. Maybe Dan, who's not an ambassador, but he's very, very familiar with Kringle fragrances, may have also touched on it. That they are the same fragrance notes. So basically, here's the thing. If you like Autumn Harvest and you want Halloween packaging, you're going to want to pick up Graveyard Night. I think it's going to be a pretty safe bet from everything that I'm hearing and understanding. Here's the thing. If you've gotten Autumn Harvest in and you don't know what to think about it on cold, because it kind of has this weird kind of like lactonic thing going on, I am going to say I've burned it a couple of times now. And thankfully that like lactonic kind of like, it's almost like a sour type. It smells like, McKenna said it smells like spiced, sweetened condensed milk on cold. That's what it smells like. I'm going to tell you guys, upon burn, the spices come forward, but that sweetened condensed milk just lends like a creaminess. It's actually very pretty. It's like a like spiced cream almost, I would say, on burn, but not getting into that lactonic sourness. It's actually very nice upon burn. I was burning it the other night with Aspen Ridge from the new fall collection, and I really, really liked that combo. So all of that was kind of lengthy about Graveyard Night. I'm not going to pick it up because I already have Autumn Harvest. Okay, Haunted Hallows. I am going to tell you guys, this is the one, throwing it in here, right? Top notes, wood, smoke, and fir. Middle notes of herbal and apple. Base note of patchouli and musk. Earlier when I was talking about Krampus and talking about how there was a fragrance in the past that kind of gave a little bit of like maybe like fall to holiday transitional vibes, kind of had a little bit of elements of Christmas tree in it. This is the one I was talking about, Haunted Hallows. If you guys are familiar with the fir note that Kringle does so beautifully, it is present in here. You do get a little bit of the darkness of wood smoke in here. I will say that. But this is a beautiful fragrance. You get some of the apple. The apple is not as prominent as the new Aspen Ridge. The apple is not as prominent as, say, Tranquil Winter, which is also like a fir and apple type of scent. What sets this one apart is that there is a little bit of like a moodiness, I would say, that I think is coming from the wood smoke. But this is absolutely beautiful, you guys. If you love the way that Kringle has done tree notes in the past, particularly their fir notes, you are going to want to get this one. I will just tell you guys, this one is on my list in a 4-wick for sure. This one is 4-wick worthy for me. I love Haunted Hallows. It's the fragrance that I was most excited to see make a return this year. Scarecrow is also returning, got a different label than it has had in the years past. I think in the years past it was more of like an ode to, I think, the Children of the Corn movies. Top notes of tobacco and oriental, middle notes of bergamot and herbal, base notes of leather and amber. So I've had Scarecrow in the past. Those of you guys who are familiar with the tobacco fragrances that Kringle has put out, like their golden tobacco, Kringle does tobacco notes very, very well. I know that that's kind of like a niche fragrance note in the candle community, but they do it very well. To my nose, you guys, Scarecrow was almost like a it was tobacco with a little bit of like a hay element going on, but slightly cologne-like, not super heavy cologne. I will say it's not an exact dupe, but if you happen to like Tom Ford Tobacco Vanilla, this is not that fragrance in candle form, but it does remind me. There's a lot of aspects that are similar. There's a little bit of like a powdery cologne-like aspect that goes on with Scarecrow. So again, if you like Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanilla, I think that you're going to enjoy Scarecrow. I did like it. I don't think that it's repurchase worthy for me, just because I find that to be a little bit of a tricky fragrance profile to try to incorporate into home fragrance for my home and what I'm typically burning this time of year. But if you enjoy tobacco fragrances, I think that it's one that you will enjoy. Sleepy Hollow is another one. We've got the Headless Horseman here. Top notes are pumpkin spice and incense, middle notes of cedarwood and clove, base notes of caramel and citrus. This is another one that I've had in the past. I think that I will repurchase it because I realize I don't have a dedicated review in my review catalog. So I think that I will repurchase it for review purposes. However, what I am going to say is that the incense note and the pumpkin spice here and the cedarwood, this is a much darker take. If you are expecting this to be like a straight up like gourmand type of fragrance, you're going to be disappointed. It's not that to me. There is definitely a darker smoky, like not smoky in terms of like campfire, but there is definitely a darker vibe to this, that I think it's beautiful. Like it's a good scent, but it's definitely not like your traditional fall. It's something that I would definitely burn like maybe late October, definitely around the Halloween time, because there's, they say he rides at midnight through the blue black mist, a flaming jack-o'-lantern raised high. Like it definitely has like a spooky element to it, but it's very well done. So I would repurchase Sleepy Hollow. I think that is going to be on my wish list. And then the last returning fragrance is Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead has top notes of spice and pumpkin, mid notes of orange and cinnamon, and base notes of clove and vanilla. So here's the thing, you guys. I initially really liked Pumpkinhead last year. When I got it in, to me, Pumpkinhead is actually a really nice, like, early fall pumpkin scent. I've had some inquiries. Somebody did ask me if this is similar to Homeworks' Autumn Pumpkin. No, they're very, very different. I will tell you that the orange note in here, this is a very bright, like bright and vibrant pumpkin scent. There are some spices in it, and I do like it. However, this is what I am going to say. For me personally, the longer that I burned this candle, this is one that I found that if I burned it any more than like 2 hours, the orange note really started to take over. And a lot of other people mentioned this. They started to think that it started to smell like dill. And it was funny because like the herb dill, right? After I started seeing people say that, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, that is what I'm smelling. Because I kept smelling something and I was like, something's not smelling right. After a couple of hours, I was like, what is going on with this? And then I started seeing other commenters. Riley, I know you're one who's going to comment down below and say, yep, Pumpkinhead smelled like dill to me. Yeah, so I would caution you, if you like a bright orange mix. There's plenty of other people clearly who really, really loved the fragrance and they're like, I don't smell dill at all, and they're going to repurchase or they're very excited to see it back. But for me, I'm going to say from last year's like good spiced pumpkin fragrances that they released for Halloween. Again, I was more of a fan of Lil Devil, which was more of like a spice forward pumpkin scent. That fragrance actually reminded me quite a bit of Yankee Candle's spiced pumpkin. Is it called spiced pumpkin? It's been around for a long time. But that was more in line with like my pumpkin type of fragrances. I actually bought a backup of that last year. It's sitting in my closet. So that's covering it. I think I talked about all 19. So at this moment, my for sure to buys are going to be Haunted Hallows, Haunted Hallows. What was the other one I said that I was going to get? Not frankincense, Black Cat. Those are my two for sures. I think I'm going to pick up Candy Corn just because I've never had it before, and Sleepy Hollow. I think I'm going to get those two from the returning fragrances. And like I said, I'm intrigued enough by these other ones. I was rudely cut off by my phone saying that my storage was full. But getting back to it, I was just saying I kind of have the safety net that of being able to smell some of these new fragrances before the launch by being able to track down and just show up at Amy's door and be like, let me sniff all of these fragrances. So let me know in the comment section down below, which ones are you intrigued by? What are you excited to see return? What are you excited to see that is new? I really like having a conversation going down there, you guys, because I know a lot of people, there's always new customers, right, coming to all of these brands. And I know that Kringle gets a lot of new customers from the Halloween launch. So if you can provide any of your feedback in the comment section, that actually helps out the community as a whole. I've always said I'm only one nose, I'm only one reviewer. I can only give an opinion of how things perform in my space. But if you are, if you have different experiences, please leave them in the comment section down below. Last but not least, you guys, I did want to let you guys know, I think the price points on these, I will make sure if anything's different, I will make sure that I have everything in the description box. I believe that the 3 wicks are going to retail for $34, and I believe that the 4 wicks are going to retail for $50. I think these are usually at the same price as the reserve pricing. I'm not entirely sure of that, but I do believe that they usually are that price point. I do have an affiliate discount code with Kringle. It is KATIE15. It does save you 15% off of your purchase. I do truly, you guys, I really appreciate it when you guys do use my code. Helps me out buying new stuff. You guys know anything that I make, I turn around and I just pour it right back into my channel to buy new stuff and review and give you guys opinions so that hopefully I help you guys, spend your money a little bit more wisely with this fun, frivolous hobby that we all enjoy. So, all right, you guys, I think that wraps it up for me. I do want to say thank you so very, very much for spending your time here with me today. Last thing that I wanted to say is that I do hope to, I will say that I think that at this time, I think I'm still in contention to receive part 2 PR. So hopefully, when that rolls around, I will have candles in hand to be able to share with you guys. Whatever I do purchase, I will make sure that I share a haul video with you guys. So lots of content coming down the pipeline. And if you don't want to miss out, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Now I do want to say thank you so very much for spending your time here with me today. And until my next one, you guys, I hope you all go out and have a very blessed day. Bye.